Hi, everyone. This is Jan Romano. I'm from Mass Higher Metro North Career Centers in Woburn and in Cambridge. I'm the technology instructor, so I teach the computer classes. I teach Microsoft Office and all the social media classes as well. So today we're going to be learning Twitter. It's a training and a question and answer session basically for those that are learning Twitter. And it's going to be in a three-part series. So first, I'm going to talk about some parts of Twitter that you as a beginner may need to know. And what we're going to do is we're going to cover what your online professional presence means to a job seeker and to anyone who's using social media. We're going to be talking about why use Twitter and what the Twitter language is and Twitter terms are, and how to create an account. What is a username, what is an account name, and what's a Twitter bio, and how to fill out an account. So that's what we're going to be working with today. And so those are the Twitter basics, what you should know. In the first part, as I mentioned, are these topics. So let us get started. So I'm going to go ahead and click the mouse, and we're going to take a look at what an online presence means. It's really a digital footprint. It is a footprint of you. It's your marketing tool. It really is basically to convince a potential hiring manager that you are right for a job, that you are who you say you are. So if you've sent out your resume, or if you have networked with someone and you want them to know a little bit more about you, then you are going to be able to direct them to Twitter. I know a lot of you use LinkedIn. It's a great tool, and definitely use LinkedIn. LinkedIn has a bigger presence for job seekers than Twitter does. But Twitter is, again, one of those social media sites where you want to have an online professional presence, especially in this day and age, and especially for companies all over the world who are looking to do what we're doing right now, market remotely. And Twitter is the tool that we can use. You want to use Twitter to build your personal brand, and a personal brand is really just who you are and what you do. And think of yourself as being a product being marketed. What are you going to market? You're going to market your skills, your experience, your points of view are your selling points. Now, with a job seeker on Twitter, we're able to talk about anything we want, and mostly we're going to talk about professional topics. So we're going to keep our Twitter account professional. And so Twitter is part of your online professional presence. It's your first impression to someone who's looking for you and to see if they can find out a little bit more about you. Now, what can I use Twitter for? Well, I can use Twitter for joining conversations. I can use Twitter to find out news that's happening in real time. I can use Twitter to find people to network with and people that influence me. I want to find out what they're saying, and I certainly can do that on Twitter. So Twitter is one of the best ways to share and discover what is happening around the world. It's one place that you can go to find all this information. Now, you do have to search. It is work, but you can use Twitter to, again, join conversations and be a part of a conversation, or share a tip or a trick about something in your industry. Follow influential people and find out what they're saying. Network with the billions of people that are on Twitter, and find local news and world news. Information about entertainment, sports, politics, etc. They're all on Twitter. Now, at Mass Higher Metro North, we specifically talk to job seekers. So as a job seeker, why would I use Twitter? Well, employers and recruiters and hiring managers are actively posting jobs on Twitter. And so you'll find jobs posted on Twitter, and some of those jobs have not been posted on some of the other job boards yet, like Indeed or LinkedIn, Monster. So wherever you're looking for a job, if you're just Googling, you'll be able to find some of those jobs that are new jobs that are not put on those other boards yet. You'll find them in Twitter. 85% of employers and 100% of recruiters will look you up on social media to get an impression of whether you're that suitable candidate for the job. So you want that professional presence so that you can show employers and recruiters that you are the right fit for them. Most importantly, on your next job, you might be asked to tweet. You might be asked to use Twitter to give out to the world what's happening in your company, whether it's a new product or something's, for example, in this day and age, we use Twitter a lot to give current information about what's happening with companies that are opening or closing. So job seekers, you have a great opportunity to use Twitter to show who you are professionally, and it's a tool to market yourself and to network. So let's see how to use it. In order to use any software, or really anything, you have to understand the terms. So we call these the Twitter terms or the Twitter language in Twitterville. You will hear people call Twitter all kinds of names, Tweetsville, Twitterville, but basically a tweet is an opportunity to post something that is relevant to you, relevant to your industry. So I wanted you to know some of the terms that we might use in Twitter. So we are going to eventually learn in our 3-part series what a tweet is. You are going to be a tweeter. You are going to have a Twitter handle, and I'll talk about that today. And in our next series, we'll talk about retweeting and tweeting and following and hashtags. These are all terms that are very important to social media and especially to Twitter. So we're going to need these terms in order to move forward. So hopefully you'll take this list, study it a little bit, and now we can move on. Well, the first thing you're going to want to do is to create an account. You're going to want to go into twitter.com, sign up with your name and either a phone number or an email address. They do ask for a birth date, and that birth date is for a reason, because you need to be 13 in order to use Twitter. And so they're looking for demographics to find out what the age of the people that are using Twitter are. Once you sign up for your account, you will then create a unique username that is just for you. Now, you can have more than one account in Twitter, but as a job seeker, as a professional person looking for a job, I would always recommend just one account. So you're using one email, you're using or phone number, you're using a password and a birth date, and you're able to create an account in Twitter. So I'm going to jump over to my Twitter account. Let's see here. All right. All right, let's see if I can jump into my Twitter account. I did have it up and running, but now I have 2 screens, so you'll see me looking over to the right a little bit. So let me bring up the Twitter account and then I'll bring it over. So I'm going to twitter.com. I know you can't see me, but I'm going to twitter.com. Let me bring this over to this screen here and I'll maximize it. And in twitter.com, I want you to notice that this right here in this area, you're able to sign up, like I mentioned, with a phone, an email, and a username, a password. Well, I'm going to instead log in. So I'm going to use this button, and I'm going to be able to log in using an email address and a password that I have. And now I'm going to get into my account. And when you get into your account, you're typically looking at, if you look over here on the left-hand side, you're looking at your home page. And your home page would be blank when you first start. You would then be looking at your profile. So every Twitter user has a profile, and I want you to notice mine is filled in. But I'm going to come over here and click on Edit Profile and show you what you would do in order to fill out your profile. So your profile has different sections. One of the sections is the picture in the background. Now, as a professional, job seeker, someone who has a job, whoever you are, you want this background to portray something that reflects who you are or what you do. So it's not going to be something personal unless this is a personal Twitter account, but we're talking about a professional Twitter account. So this account will have a picture that will resonate with the audience, hopefully an employer or recruiter, of what your industry is. So notice I'm an instructor, so the key to self-confidence is preparation. That's what I made up. I made that in PowerPoint and copied in and put it in here. How? Using this little camera right here and uploading that to Twitter. The photo. I do want to recommend that you use the same photo that you have in LinkedIn. So if you have a LinkedIn account, you should have a photo in LinkedIn, and it should be the same photo that you use in Twitter, because again, this is our professional presence. You're putting in a name, easy enough. You do have 50 characters to put in the name. Notice in the bottom right here, I've used 10 out of 50. Then there's a section called a bio. Now, a bio is 160 characters available to you to type to explain who you are. So I'm an instructor who will teach you how to use social media to build your brand and land that perfect job. I want you to notice that I put hashtags in front of the word instructor, and the hashtag is a pound sign, or a number sign, you might call it. So instructor and teach and social media are key words in my industry. So I've put some hashtags in front of them. And when we go to Twitter part 2, and hopefully you'll watch that eventually, you'll understand more and more about what a hashtag is. But those are important words, so I put a hashtag in front of them to bring attention to them for right now. Notice I put here a location, Boston, Mass, a website. And what is this website? This is my LinkedIn website. So if you have a LinkedIn website or some other website, maybe you're a photographer and you want to put your own website in there, feel free to put that in. All I did was copy and paste that from LinkedIn. Then it asks for a date of birth again. Now this date of birth is not necessary, or it is not required. And what will Twitter do with that? Twitter will use that for demographics for sure, but it'll also put it on your public profile, and all profiles are public unless you decide to make them private, but they're public. And do you want people to see when your birth date is? So I'm not for that. I'm not going to put in my birth date. I don't need that advertised, so I'm not going to put that in. Then all you do is click Save. And now you've created a profile. And that profile is what everybody sees. So everybody who Googles you can find your Twitter profile. Everyone who is in Twitter and searches for Jen Romano can find my Twitter profile. Anyone who actually looks for an instructor, or notice some topic like teach or social media, may be able to find me. Why? Because if you look at my bio, I put my hashtags in front of those keywords. So I want to be found on Twitter by an employer, recruiter, and anyone who I can network with. And so I'm setting this up and I'm building a profile. And that's how simple it is to build a profile. Let me go back to my PowerPoint presentation for a moment. We learned to create an account. We learned to sign in. We learned to use our first and last name. But there's something else that you really need to know. There's something called a username. So an account name does not need to be unique. So there can be many people, for example, Mary Smith. There can be many people with an account name Mary Smith, as long as they all have a different email or a different phone number. But there can never be two people with the same username, because the username is going to be part of your Twitter handle. So I'm going to show you on my account that, let me make it a little bit bigger. You can see under my name, Jan Romano, this is my username, and that's part of the sign up procedure. So after you go through that first screen and you put your name and your email and your password, you'll come to another screen and it'll ask you what you want as your username. And it needs to be unique, just like an email address is unique to you. So I put Jan Romano. So they usually say, why don't you use your name again in your username, but then use a keyword. Now, the unfortunate thing is that you can't use any spaces, but you can use underscores. A lot of people don't like an underscore because when you type it, it's hard to type. But notice I used Jan Romano underscore teach. That is my Twitter handle. So when I want to tell somebody how to find me on Twitter, instead of telling them to search for Jan Romano, because there could be many, I can tell them, look at Twitter at Jan Romano underscore teach. And teach is a keyword in my industry, so you always try to incorporate a keyword in your username. So again, I'll go back here. You have an account name. You also now have a username, and that username is unique, and that's called your Twitter handle. We filled in the profile. We typed in our name. We typed in a bio, which is 160 characters. Notice I have an example here. As a qualified social worker, I'm currently looking for position in such and such type of organization. That is an okay bio. It is saying that I am job seeking. I'd rather it be more of a professional bio because you are a professional person. Looking for a job is just what's happening right now. So you want to project it of maybe what you will do for a company, who you are professionally, instead of maybe that you're job seeking. Later, when we go over in our part 2, when we go over tweeting, you can tweet that you're job seeking. And that would be a way to tell people that you're networking with that you're looking for a job. We put in our location and we added other websites. And that was my LinkedIn website. Your bio is very important, so I wanted to spend another minute on that. Your bio is 160 characters, so it's not a lot, but what you want to do is on the left-hand side, take a look at this screen. You want to tell people exactly what you do. You want to voice the mission or mantra that you might live by. You want to promote your personal brand. You want to use keywords to describe the job you are seeking. So these on the right-hand side are examples. Maybe some examples that you can resonate with. And not use them exactly by copying and paste them, but maybe getting an idea of what you might want to use for your bio. And you can look at other people's bios on Twitter and get an idea as well. So your bio is very important. Spend some time because that goes right underneath your name, which is right underneath your picture, which makes a very good first impression. Now, before we go any further, I want to make sure that you understand that all accounts on Twitter are public. So which means that anyone who looks at your Twitter account can see your entire profile. That includes eventually your tweets and who you follow and who follows you. So you would have a public account, and I would highly recommend as a job seeker that we keep it as a public account. Why? If we make it a private account, then someone who Googles you can't find you. Someone who doesn't follow you can't see what you tweet about. And tweeting and following is going to be very important. And we're going to make sure that you understand that as we go along. But first, you want to make your account. You want to get your profile looking good. You want to understand that you want to keep it a public profile and start that first, and then you'll be able to continue on with Twitter. There are some resources that may be a good idea to look at and to help you as you're building your profile. So JobScan and Twitter Help Center and Work It Daily are just 3 really good websites that will help you. You can just Google Twitter Help. Twitter has a help center, and you can ask any question there on their Twitter account. But these websites will give you insight to Twitter for your job search, Twitter for building your brand, and I highly recommend that you take a look at some of these. We want to thank you very much for joining me today. Like I said, I'm from MassHire Metro North Career Centers. We have a Cambridge Center, a Chelsea Center, and a Woburn Center. Right now, we are working remotely during this pandemic, and very happy to bring you these training tutorials. So thank you for joining me today, and find us on www.masshiremncareers.com. Thanks.